on to stage 7 in today's Dakar. We go into the big dunes, massive 45 kilometres, stunning stuff, but no time for the tourism. Sildepre leads on 2 wheels overall. The 2-time Dakar winner has a lot of work to do to keep that lead. Whilst on 4 wheels, Stefan Pennehansel, he got his foot down and managed to cut through the mayhem. It was a big day yesterday on the stage up to Iquique. Right up in the north of the Atacama Desert, the most northerly points that Dakar has visited over the 2 visits that we've had here to Argentina and Chile. The melee was continuing. It was difficult for everybody out there. Jan Lammers in the Dutch truck, he got stuck early on, as well as everybody else in big, big trouble. Gordon was in those dunes up to Iquique yesterday, but he had problems because the tyre inflation-deflation system wasn't working. That therefore meant that his tyres were pretty well up like a balloon. He had no traction at all in the soft sands. Fortunately, there were spectators out there, the fans flocking into the national park of stage 6. Unfortunately for many, giving them a chance to get out. Now the fesh was in abundance 24 hours ago, the utter nightmare for Dakar competitors. Dust that has been ground down to dust and then ground again. Difficult is not the word. Miles and miles of track. Sildepre saying 24 hours ago, when you're out there on your own, you sometimes forget that you're actually in a race. Now here's the follow-up to Robbie Gordon's tyre problems. Look, can't even get over the smallest of dunes. Gordon was totally hauling it yesterday, but he hit a rock in the dust and eventually had a flat. They inflated that flat, but it was up like a drum, and then when they tried to get pulled out, they tied it to the bumper, which was really held on by a piece of string. So that wasn't much use. Gordon and Andy Grider trying to get out, and Gordon getting more than frustrated. Eventually they did have to let the tyres down, as they tried and they tried to get moving.
The ventilation system is broken right now.
Why it takes so long time? Would you explain it? Why it's broken?
Because I like being stuck, okay?
However, Gordon got his clog down, and in the last half of a kilometre down to the shores of the Pacific, just look at this, as Gordon flies past one of the Kamaz trucks, beaching it right over the jumps and crossing the line. Stage 7 of the Argentina-Chile Dakar. We move from Iquique back down south to Antofagasta. It's the longest stage of the entire event. Very difficult sand dunes to start off, and then a neutralisation zone in the middle before the finish, again on the shores of the Pacific. David Castera, the sporting director of the Dakar, told the competitors late last night that the start of today's stage would be very difficult indeed. Not only a climb up into the mountains, but once up in there, the dunes would be very soft indeed. Only about 45 kilometres of those very soft dunes, but difficult nonetheless. If people aren't getting tired by now, they will be after today's stage. At 600 kilometres, over 400 miles, it's the longest stage of the entire event. So long, in fact, they have given people to 6 p.m. on the rest day, which is tomorrow, the facility to be able to actually return to the bivouac. They've really got 2 days to complete this stage. It is a whopper. Early on, Mark Comer battling to try and regain some time after the bad luck that befell the reigning champion at the start of this rally. Cyril Dupre out there with the number 2, Dupre, who is continuing to lead overall as he started the day, and Dupre in touch with Comer on the stage in the first part of it. But for everybody else in the stage, it was a different story. They were getting lost. Here is Francisco Lopez. Lopez, who was victorious yesterday, and he knows his way around the stages in this part of the world, completely lost. That gave a chance for Portugal's Helder Rodrigues to try and catch up. Rodrigues, who eventually had a problematic second half to the stage after the 50-kilometre neutralisation zone that avoided a national park. Bizarre views for everybody on the stage. They were in the dunes, in the fesh, but at times they could see the beach. Now Palander's Olival Setta, he had a cracking start to the stage, leading at the first 3 checkpoints. Finally the Norwegian looking to click it into top gear and be on form on this year's Dakar. He hasn't had a great start. He didn't complain about machinery problems early on when everybody else, including Mark Comer, was having problems with the air-restricted 690 KTMs. But in the end, he lost that advantage on today's stage, and with Lopez signalling and asking the helicopter crew which way was next. And look how soft this sand is. Lopez knows his way around, relatively speaking, this part of the world. Can't even get over the dune. And just look at the sand falling from underneath the rear wheel. It's just like water. Now in the end, Lopez lost a massive amount of time, some 48 minutes, but for the privateers and amateurs, it was going to be a very difficult day indeed. They just had to follow the tracks of the pros that went ahead, but that is easier said than done on a 600-kilometre stage down to Antofagasta. Now, There's some salt flats in the first part of today's stage, which gave some spectacular views, but then we had some really spectacular action. Now, this is Mark Comer catching Rodriguez on the stage. Rodriguez, who eventually lost 36 minutes, but Comer has made massive progress. He was second on the stage today, only by half a minute, but amazingly he has leapt up to second in the overall standings. An hour and 6 minutes back of this man here, Cyril Dupre, who has won today's stage, and it's Dupre who's going to lead at the halfway point of this year's Argentina-Chile Dakar. An hour may sound like a big lead for the Frenchman, but Comer has lost that kind of time in the first half of the event. Will Dupre be scot-free on the charge back east to Buenos Aires? Ruben Faria, he was fourth on today's stage, backing up the pace of his teammate Cyril Dupre, but unfortunately he is still 3 hours back. David Fretinier continues to be sixth overall on his Yamaha 450, but he's well over 2 hours and 5 minutes behind. Alain Duclos inside the top 10 with his number 14 KTM. I remind you that Duclos riding first time on this Dakar for quite a while. Here is Jonas Street from Washington State in the US of A. He's had a more than cautious first half of the rally, but he's inside the top 10 and happy to get to the rest day. Stage 7, a victorious one for Cyril Dupre by just those 29 seconds ahead of Mark Comer. Fretinier in third, Faria and Olivalseta. Overall, Dupre leads by an hour and 6 minutes from Comer. Rodriguez, an hour and 20 back from Olivalseta and Duclos.
600 km, 7h31
600 kilometers, 7.5 hours.
Et fatigué parce que
I'm very tired because at about
150,
150 clicks in this morning I hit a dip and I broke the hydraulic system on my shock absorber. So since then I've just been on a spring. I've taken quite a few whacks to my backside, my neck, my wrists, all over my entire body. So since this morning it's been pretty exhausting.
Mais là depuis ce matin, ouais, c'est éprouvant quoi.
It's been a long stage. We have to be very careful with the tyres at that kind of top speed. The first part was navigating through the dunes. That was very hard. I stopped to give some tools to Helder Rodriguez. He'd broken his throttle, and after that I stopped to help Lopez, who had broken his chain. It was completely blocked. That cost me a minute and a half or so, but this stage was very demanding physically, particularly for the engine, because we had many off-road sections between some big rocks. In there it was real first gear stuff, so it was a very, very difficult day.